Welcome, Pavithra.
Thank you.
As a part of Vaya Vikas's Women's Day series, Timeless Trailblazers, we celebrate Pavithra Muddayya, the visionary founder of Vimor Handloom Foundation and recipient of the prestigious Devi Award 2024. A passionate advocate for India's textile heritage, she has dedicated her life to reviving traditional handlooms while uplifting and empowering weavers and artisans. Under her leadership, Vimor has not only preserved age-old weaving techniques, but also created sustainable livelihoods, ensuring that craftsmanship continues to thrive in a modern world. Her commitment extends beyond textiles through education, skill development, and cultural storytelling. She bridges the past and the present, making heritage relevant for future generations. Pavitra's work stands as a testament to how tradition and innovation can coexist, driving both cultural sustainability and economic empowerment. She is a true change maker, proving that the threads of history, when nurtured with care, can weave a brighter and more inclusive future for all. Let's hear from Pavithra, the story of Vimor. Welcome again.
Thank you, Shanti. I mean, really had too much of a praise. I feel embarrassed with all this, but thank you.
No.
It's really nice to...
I think your story needs to be told.
Okay.
Let's start at the very beginning. How did you... I hope I'm pronouncing it correct.
Yeah, Vimor. V-I-M-O-R. Vimor, yeah.
So how did you start?
Actually, Shanti, for all the fancy way it sounds, it was purely a necessity that made us start. The backstory is my mother had experience at Kaveri as a first manager and was sent to New York World's Fair in '64 by Mrs. Pupil Jaikar, and subsequently. She said, I can't be a second-class citizen, and was back here. And my father also was very progressive. Don't be like other women and say husband and children. And so that was the backstory. But my dad passed away in 1974, and I was just all of 16. And we didn't come from land, property, anything else. So the only thing my mother knew was textiles and handicrafts. So we registered business between my mother and me as a partnership. And it was just absolutely just getting over day-to-day necessity. And then from that, I think we've been blessed also that we were able to carry on, and now we finished 50 years. So to tell you, Vimor actually means pure in Indonesian, and my mother had met this girl, Vimor, okay? But when we began, we had no idea of design, no idea of business. My mother had a great eye, so that was it. And she had her experience at Kaveri, and everyone, all the craftsmen used to come to her. So I think that sort of gave her that determination that she could go ahead. So first we were selling temple saris. I mean, before that I was in Madras, and so she'd send me silk, print it, and I would send it back. What was sold, that money was put back to buy more. We were very lucky that we got this Mr. Bandari who was trading in all these old temple saris that were auctioned. See, when the temple has too many, with the devotees giving those saris that are tied in bundle. And so the good ones, luckily for us, because of Mr. Jaika, went to the Calico Museum in Delhi. But the things that were damaged, we didn't have the luxury of saying, so beautiful, wow, I'd like to keep it. I mean, so we needed to, I think that was my first foray after design. I would dye it, I would print it, I would do something with the damaged piece because there was oil marks, stains, rust marks, and make it a saleable piece. I think that was our first thing. And from where we began, it was I think I came from a thing of not privilege, but making it inclusive to whoever we worked with. My house was always with craftsmen, with whoever it was. Nobody was sent away. Yeah, so that was it. Coming back to it, I think within a year or two, I think we've been blessed. We had sort of settled into a financial stability, and then we realized the pieces we were getting were not as beautiful. You know, as you see today, see there, because it's fast-paced, the design sensibility was coming down. And at that point of time, we thought we should get into, that time we didn't know there was a word revival, into reproducing it. So we started in a very small way with the kind of fun that we had. So we started with the puja sari that was in Dharmavaram. But I think we always brought innovation to whatever we did. We didn't believe, or Mrs. Jaika said, don't copy exactly. These kind of things between Mrs. Jaika and Kamala Devi, they were always giving us, especially me, giving me do's and don'ts, which I didn't appreciate as a young girl. But we started doing revival then, so called. So we made changes, and like I use the word, sold it like kadlepuri, because Delhi cottage industries was our main buyer. So it was a big blessing. So whatever we did at that time with this one loom just sold. And then after that time, a very critical point came when uh, this weaver's son was brought to us because he had passed away. And I told that weaver, please stop. I'm fed up of seeing this design. Maybe as a creative person, I don't want to keep seeing the same thing. I want to try something new. So then he said, please just continue with this loom till he finishes his 10th standard. And we just didn't have the heart to say no. And I think that's the crux of it. We are not able to just be businesslike and say no to it. So we continued that puja sari, but I got the Kasuti man to do. So I realized I could empower two different communities in two different regions. And as I said, I think every woman in India owns a puja sari. So I trained 10 different people in different, whether it was silk, cotton, dupatta, yardage, whatever it is. So it has been one thing to say it's my pride. It's been in continuous production for 48 years. And from the prime minister to the school teacher to the housewife has worn it. So you teach something different for your kind of different customers. And I think it was easy. Another thing that we did is we let go of design, what now they call open source. I never believed that I had to keep it and go on with it. I wanted to close it and give it over so that I'm not caught up with having to establish factories or looms or anything. So I don't own anything. But so my weavers say it's put so much food on the plate, and that I think it feels very good to hear. Yeah.
And what were the challenges you faced in the early years?
See, I mean, now looking back at 50 years, I don't really consider it as challenge because my mother was a very positive person, and she never made me feel that because my dad left us and, we are in a difficult situation, we needed to look at things differently. But I think the challenge was how to make a person, especially a weaver, believe that he can do. That was, I think, the biggest challenge because even today, after 75 years, weavers are not in a great position. Though most of my weavers, I'm training the third generation, and they're doing brilliantly, supplying the rest of India. But on the whole, weavers have a very bad time. I mean, and I've been fighting for a lot of issues related to policy. But the point is, they are. So I think the challenge was how do you make a man to go from just a wage worker to believing that he's entitled to a better life because he has inherited fabulous skills, which the world is looking at to us. So I think building pride and confidence was the biggest thing for us to be able to tell them that you are not just people sitting on a regular machine. So, and I believe another thing is when you work with your hand, heart, and head, you can create magic. So, half our challenge was in making them believe it. We had to continue making them realize it by we provided an advance and a buyback. So they worked in a risk-free environment. So if I did a design, I paid in advance and a buyback. So he did not need to say, do I need to go to Checkpet or do I need to go to Delhi? So that stability helped a lot by saying, okay, this Amma will definitely take. And then there's a certain amount of trust. So that's how it is. Another nice thing I'd like to say is now looking back, it seems a great idea. We always allowed them the last sari to do what they want, or the first. So, because at our cost, you experiment. He was in a difficult situation. Where would he be able to buy yarn and experiment in terms of design? No. So we said 2 saris, it is our cost. And if they didn't sell in the store, either my mother wore it or I wore it. But I think allowing them to get that innovation, boldness to experiment at somebody's cost was good.
Absolutely, what you said is true. We hear about weaver suicides and, the next generation feeling that it's not worth continuing in the profession, so traditional arts are dying out in different fields. So I think your work would have really helped. So how far is your impact, like in Karnataka, or how your weavers?
No, it's not actually in Karnataka. I mean, they put some ridiculous figures of mandates because I don't own a loom or I don't have a store beyond my home store. But the fact is, I think important to understand that what we are providing is not a continuous job. As long as it goes, they have a customer as you are a new customer. So the learning from me, they can use it, tweak it and do. And since I give off my design free, I don't believe in this GI, and I don't believe in this patent business. Don't want to crowd my head with what I did. And I think it's again stalwarts like Kamala Devi who'd always come with a gift, and we had to show her what we did. And she's been widely photographed wearing us. But iconic people like her who genuinely spent time in sort of questioning, asking me a lot of things. And I used to think at that age, what vanity. But I never realized it was not vanity. It was, the thing of detail and concern and kindness. And she was amazing. So I think those kind of things are there. And if I can say, most of my weavers, so Delhi says you're an accident or a fluke, because most of my weavers, it's the second and third generation. They don't need to sit on the loom and be a weaver. But if they've grown up seeing it, he does his MBA engineering, tries his hand working out, and comes back to the village where he is a Raja. So he's the weaver has started with 2 looms with me, gone on to 80, 100. The son comes in and he becomes the bigger entrepreneur supplying the rest of India. So, I mean, I'm humbled to say that when the son comes into the business, they bring them to us. And then I say, I can't deal with 2 generations. So I tell the father to step out. So I deal with the son, though I don't know 2 buttons of a computer. But I think, that freedom, because kids today are far, far smarter. And so we need to have that little space, and they've done just brilliantly. So when that boy does a sari design that I have given to him without the father's interference or input, there's a sense of pride that is so visible. I mean, like the father says, now I know he'll be on the right track. And it's a beautiful journey because the way you get to meet people who are genuine, kind, compassionate, all good human values that we think. I see it in my weavers. I see it because they don't have their head cluttered with 100 things, though they're worried about where their next meal is. My weavers have not. And so I think it's a great way of saying, if I could do it, anybody could take it up and do it. It's just a question of giving. You can't hold on to everything because God has made you creative. If you held on to everything, I think my head would have been so crowded. I couldn't have been creative.
Yeah. That's lovely. It's a very unique thought, and not many people will, be so generous.
Correct. But it's paid off. That generosity and kindness has paid. If I finished 50 years, I get prasad, tavi, something, and I know that they pray for me. So it's something, it's not tangible, but it is very evident, I mean, they cannot believe that you have a store that is never advertised, yet everybody has got my sari. What is it? I think it comes back to goodwill again. Those are things that I think we have to understand, that it's far superior to anything else.
Okay. Yeah, who doesn't love saris? Like generally we hear about Kanjivaram and I'm from Andhra, so Venkatagiri or something. Can you tell us some of the other
Sarees.
handloom? Yes, saris. I've
Yeah.
heard of your Kaban Pet saris, but
Yeah. So, see, I'm not academic. Okay. See, I didn't come from an academic background or a design background. But strangely, I've been sitting on a lot of design panels, and so I believe that actually one area doesn't totally have one design. Because if you put 10 of us in our room, all our brains won't work the same way. So,
yes,
how do we say that this design belongs only to that region? I have a different issue. I say, because in any textiles that we have in our museum, Vimor Museum of Living, you will always find two different regional parts of it. So it is just fabulous. Talking of Andhra, I've got a sari that has the Gadwal end of the pallu, but it has a fish. The fish design is from Awadh. Now, where is Awadh and where is Gadwal? So these are things that are come down through weaver stories, and it makes you think also, because that region didn't have this design. The fish is in the flag of Awadh,
yes.
yet how did it have this Armoor and Gadwal influence? So trade, migrations always influence this. So if you've seen something, I think, and at that time we have to realize weavers functioned without being told, produce 100 saris. So he had the space to be creative and, reinterpret what he saw or heard in any which way. I believe that it was a personal understanding, and it's like a painter sitting and painting his own thing. They were not dictated by, I need 100 pieces in 3 months. So they did not need to do the same thing.
Yeah, wonderful. Have your saris gone out of India? Has your fabric gone out of India? Why don't you tell us?
See, I don't want to sound boastful, but at the cost of sounding boastful, yes. Uh, I mean, from it's been out of the country because so many Indians are out. Okay, let's face it. And the sari is the only continuous garment that's been in constant use, unlike any other garment across the world that just becomes an occasion wear. I think the utility of how you use a sari is very individual and stylized, so everyone can wear it the way they want. There is no one way that is the best way. And I think because of the use and allowance of how to do it according to your personality, I think it stays there. Having said that, I was actively involved during the Festival of India. That was in the 80s. So under Mrs. Jaika, they did the Festival of India. So I was, because of her again, Viva Service Center. So I would be called. And a lot of our pieces went to. Sorry, I'm so sorry
No,
about this.
no,
I
no.
really don't know how it happened. Okay.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
So, Festival of India, a lot of our saris were given for reproducing it for the Festival of India. At that time, we did not know we should say courtesy or buy Vimor or anything. So, I was very closely involved between Madras and Bangalore in all those reproductions. And it was run by Mrs. Jaikar, and Martan Singh was there. So, for anything that was a cause of textiles, we freely gave. And all those pieces are sitting in Viva Service Center, and everyone has access today. So, I have lost the control of saying these pieces are mine. But in the larger context, I say we've let it be. So, that is the point. Some of my fabrics have been taken actually to France for the Paris Fashion Week. So actually, and the last one I have to tell you is the Kambli. I'm working with the pastoral Kurba community, has been worn by Ricky Cage to the Grammy Awards. I
Wonderful.
mean, yeah, it is. It feels good, and I think all across we've had, as I said, from the Prime Minister down to the President, down to everyone. As I said, it's not that I have created a design for X. It's just that everyone has been happy to wear and buy our saris, I think they also have a lot of respect because we've never photographed any dignitary or a famous personality and used that to, boost up our business, because we believe their privacy is important. And I think that respect comes to us because of that. We've never used them in that way.
This is a very rare commodity. We don't see it much today.
Yeah, I know. Even when Rajiv Gandhi came, everyone, why don't you take photos? No, we said, no, we won't do that. And I think it paid off because when I was the only one who did the Indira Gandhi centenary designs in 2017. And I could feel the thing is, they said, I mean, Mrs. Gandhi said, oh, I've known them, been to their house so many times, So when people ask, I don't look like any designer type at all. But anyway, that is it. Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your museum of of handlooms?
So actually, Shanti, it was my dream to create a museum because every time I was training weavers, I would always show these old textiles. As I told you, the first thing is building pride and confidence. And if I told them that you inherited such a fabulous skill, you can't let it go. And every time we had to show a textile and then he would take on the work. So somewhere I found the connection was affecting him, his morale, to believe in himself. And the museum I wanted to put and create, doing it in a big scale was beyond me, because you ask, you'll get that tomorrow, that, and chasing that, I think, was taking off my energy. So I realized a lot of museums have 18th century, 17th century, 19th century about a king who I say is fossilized and brilliant and moneyed. But the museum that I have is about what your grandmother wore and my grandmother wore. I said, why is that we have to be left out of this whole thing? Everywhere it is about some century. See, when you have the resources, you can do the most exotic. But without resources, your grandmother decided what she wanted to wear, what suited her body, what suited her personality. So she went across to the next village and ordered her sari. And I think that understanding as common people was very important, because I mean, the things that I've got in the museum, at some point of time, come and see. It's just fabulous. And every visitor that comes, say, it gives them a recall of their memory. Either they're remembering their atte or the mother-in-law or somebody, in the family. And I think sari being so integral, I think every Indian is sort of drawn to it. And I think, and the biggest thing I have to say, to be very grateful, is people have donated their saris to the museum. People I know, understandable. People I do not know, I do not know what to say other than saying I'm blessed. Because people who I do not know have folded their saris and sent it to me in a box. So it gives me a great reason to study it and see where we can put it into production somewhere, And it's gone beyond South. I worked in Rajasthan. I worked without knowing Hindi. As I said, the loom has no language. So I think that's where it produces the results, And then I take a design from that area, and then after a year, it gives it back to them. So it's not mine anymore. And the design fraternity doesn't agree about the way I do giveaway design, but this is the way I am, and this is the way I function. So that's it.
Great, great. And I think your connection with weavers goes beyond design, right?
Yes, absolutely. It goes
Can you give
beyond
us, yeah.
yeah, goes beyond design. Like when COVID, it affected all of us. And as I said, even if I've had the biggest kind of clientele, we've never asked for anything, any favor, nothing. So in COVID, we first time did fundraising for the weavers, and it was such a deeply moving thing. I think it has changed me in a lot of ways. So we did ration distribution. So luckily, all the weavers that we work with were the points who took it upon themselves, took their vehicles and distributed it. And I always said there should be at least 10 people who are senior citizens who can't come to get it. And when I did say, you put the cost to me, the petrol cost, I got blasted. And then they'd say, I mean, you've given us an opportunity. And one lady says, why has Allah given me legs if you take away this little bit of service for me? And it was heartbreaking because the Karnataka government, they were getting just 2,000 in a year. So it was, so one man said, am I worse than a dog? I spent 5 rupees on my dog. This comes to 5 rupees 47 paisa. So our way of doing it is, other than ration, we bought excess fabric. Then we trained women in Gadak, Batagari and embroidery. Design for me has always been about I win, you too have to win. So it has always been a second side. They too has to be there. It's not a question that I'm the only one growing. And luckily, those are the kind of things, but it was very, very difficult. The men in the Rajasthan people had my face and things splashed across the paper. It's not that we asked, but everyone was so overcome that people sitting at such distances, this, that, everywhere, it was a fabulous connect, and people who I did not know were writing to me in a language I didn't know to communicate. And I think that was the power of also, and the kindness, as I always say, because they believe when they leave, they are doing a service, that God has given them a skill and they are doing it. And so that is.
What is your vision for Vimor in future?
I'm not a person who's very structured. As I say, I'm very unstructured, and I think erratic way of functioning. It just has to come to me, and I will draw and give a design. So I don't have a document. But now people are after me, so we are hoping to bring a book out of for 50 years, because it has a lot of stories, of empowering people. I think that is important. And everyone tells me it's not about you. I mean, it needs to be shown as an example also. But my vision was, I wanted to finish my 50 years at Vimor. What my children choose to do with it is that I am not very attached to the fact that, oh, I set this up, it should live for so long and all that. I don't have all that attitude at all. So, but we've never sent away any weaver who's come to our doorstep. And that is it. The vision is, I would really hope that I could be part of, I mean, I am fighting for a lot of policy issues, which I feel are the crux of the problem. In 75 years, we're still giving a 20% discount, which bothers me and all of us as well-dressed women and fairly affluent people still go and ask for that discount. And I cannot understand the psyche of, after all, it's people from your own country. Why are we putting it down? Whereas we go to an MNC without batting an eyelid, we don't ask for 1 paisa. I think these are kind of things. That's my vision. I wish that we all can understand that we belong to the same place and so respect our craft, because without our craft, I think we would have no identity, craft and textiles. And it is shown that it is a great economic thing. We had our highest GDP because of textiles. So why are we letting go of something and calling it a sunset industry? I mean, we've had so many thousand years experience. If you can do it with IT, why can't you support this kind of an industry? But having said that, this flip side is most of them are unlettered. And, so I think somewhere as a society, we have failed. We have failed in the sense of policy allowing powerloom and polyester, and then we cry saying we are hurting the earth. I mean, it's quite straightforward. We don't need to get into all these other things. There is enough space for the powerloom to thrive, handloom to thrive, and everyone else. But why do you just step on each other's toes and kill the other person to a point that he takes a loan of 6,000, commits suicide? And here we have these guys who run out of the country worth crores, and we don't lift a finger and say we need to bring them back. And that, I feel, it's such an unequal society. And so weavers are very reluctant, that they don't want their sons to continue in it. This is, and when you say you need educated people who would be buyers, again, it's very difficult. When we can't enforce women's safety, how are we going to enforce and teach what is handloom and powerloom and polyester? It's a big question mark, and I think somewhere all that, I'm hoping that that can be taken care of.
I'm sure with people like you at the forefront, a lot is possible.
Yeah.
A small deviation. What is your philosophy of life and aging?
Just 1 minute, if I can just.
Yeah, sure.
A simple, ordinary person.
Yeah, just a few words about your philosophy of life and aging.
Aging, I think I find myself more empowered as I'm aging, because I think a lot of opportunities came to me earlier also, but I didn't have the courage or the confidence to take it up because it's always dependent on somebody else. But I think as I've aged, now my attitude is, how many more years have I got? I'm going to do whatever I wanted to do. And I think it has given me a lot of freedom and a lot of courage to feel empowered in the way I find as a person and as a personality I'm taking up. I don't say no. Earlier I would say no. Now I don't say no. I don't think anything is holding me back because I don't find I'm answerable to anybody. And then I'm not doing anything wrong. So I think aging is also fabulous because there are so many life's lessons that we have to fall back on, in the sense earlier you were not sure about a lot of things, but I can look back and say, okay, this was it. And I think I feel privileged because a lot of good things have happened. I don't want to dwell on the negativity that has happened. Uh, I mean, everyone will have the plus and minus, but I think if we can take the plus and go forward, you owe it to yourself, You don't owe it to the rest of the world, but you owe it to yourself. And then for me, I think I look at it that I have a purpose in life. I have a larger purpose. So I'm grateful that God has kept me around to have a larger purpose,
Wonderful. Just one final thought. A message to senior women on Women's Day.
I think women are very special, multi-talented, and there's nothing that you can't do. I think we need to value ourselves. I think that is very important, and I don't think anyone should be told that you can't do it. I think we need to value ourselves, and that comes from an inner place that nobody else can tell you but yourself. I think once you understand that you could have everything that you want, I think it's a great thing. And I think as seniors, so much of experiences behind you will definitely help you make those decisions also, which is much easier because as a youngster, you're not sure of a lot of things. But as a
Yes.
senior, I think we are far, far more better equipped.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pavithra. We are deeply grateful to you for joining us and
Thank you.
sharing your inspiring journey. Your
No.
passion for preserving India's handloom heritage and empowering communities is truly inspiring. And through your insights, we have gained a deeper appreciation of the role of tradition in shaping sustainable and inclusive future. Thank you so much for your time and wisdom and your dedication. And your work continues to inspire many, and we're honored to celebrate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.